The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across Commander Nadia Volkov's face as she reviewed the mission logs for the 11th time. Her dark eyes, rimmed with exhaustion, scanned each detail meticulously. The disappearances had started 3 months ago, brilliant minds vanishing from research stations across the solar system without a trace. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The AI complied, projecting the final transmission from Dr. Samira Patel, the last of the 11 to vanish. "Something's interfering with our instruments," Dr. Patel's recorded voice echoed through the command center. "The readings, they're unlike anything we've seen before. We need to wait. There's something." Static consumed the rest. The transmission had originated from Europa Research Station Delta, now a ghost facility floating in the icy depths of Jupiter's moon. When rescue teams arrived, they found only empty corridors and abandoned research terminals. No signs of struggle, no bodies, just 11 brilliant scientists gone without a trace. Lieutenant Raman cleared his throat from his station. "Commander, the Helios just completed their sweep of the Galilean moons. They found something." His voice carried an edge that made Volkov's spine stiffen. The new hologram materialized. A structure, geometric and alien, buried beneath Europa's ice. Its architecture defied human engineering principles, all acute angles and impossible curves that seemed to bend space itself. But it was the energy signature that made Volkov's blood run cold, a perfect match for the anomaly recorded in Dr. Patel's final transmission. "Get me Fleet Admiral Harrison," she commanded, already knowing this discovery would change everything. "And initiate Protocol Prometheus." Within hours, the UES Hyperion, humanity's most advanced warship, broke orbit around Mars carrying a joint military-scientific task force. Commander Volkov stood on the bridge, watching the red planet shrink behind them as they accelerated toward Jupiter. Dr. Victor Rossi, the task force's lead xenobiologist, joined her at the viewport. "They kept them alive," he said quietly, reviewing data on his tablet. "The energy readings suggest ongoing biological activity. Whatever took our people, they're studying them." Volkov's jaw clenched. "Studying them how?" Before Rossi could answer, alarms blared across the ship. Multiple objects detected. Lieutenant Raman shouted. "They're rising from Europa's surface." The objects moved with impossible speed, their hulls shimmering with an iridescent material unknown to human science. Within moments, they surrounded the Hyperion, their intentions clear as crystal-like protrusions began to glow with gathered energy. "They don't want us finding their laboratory," Volkov realized aloud. She keyed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, battle stations. First contact protocols are suspended. These bastards threw away the right to diplomacy when they took our people." The battle that followed would be remembered as humanity's first interstellar conflict, but it wasn't the grand exchange of technologies and ideologies that optimists had dreamed of. It was swift, brutal, and decisive. The Hyperion's advanced weapons proved effective against the alien vessels, but not before they transmitted a burst of data toward the outer solar system. When boarding teams finally breached the subterranean facility, they found horror beyond imagination. Sterile chambers filled with medical equipment both familiar and alien. Documentation of experiments that turned stomachs and haunted dreams. And in the central chamber, suspended in transparent pods, 11 brilliant minds reduced to test subjects. They were alive, but changed. Their bodies bore the marks of methodical experimentation, their minds altered by invasive procedures. Dr. Patel, once a leading quantum physicist, could only repeat complex mathematical sequences that seemed to hold some greater meaning. The others were in similar states, their genius twisted into something alien and incomprehensible. Commander Volkov stood in the facility's control center, surrounded by displays showing star charts and navigation data. The alien transmission had been aimed at a specific point in space, their homeworld. She thought of the 11 women, their brilliance, their potential, all sacrificed on the altar of alien curiosity. "Send everything to Fleet Command," she ordered, her voice hard as steel. "And prepare a full report for the Security Council. They need to understand what we're dealing with." As the Hyperion began its solemn journey home, carrying its traumatized cargo, Volkov drafted the message that would set humanity on an irreversible course. "They came to our home, took our people, and treated them like laboratory specimens. They must learn that humanity is not their experiment. We are their reckoning." The Security Council's response was unanimous. Within weeks, the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled began to form in Earth's orbit. Ships of war, vessels of vengeance, carrying the combined might of a species that had just learned it was not alone in the universe, and that its first neighbors were monsters to be destroyed. The age of human innocence ended not with a diplomatic exchange or a peaceful first contact, but with the screams of 11 women and the cold calculation of alien minds that saw them as nothing more than test subjects. Humanity's response would write a new chapter in the history of both species, one written in fire and retribution. Fleet Admiral Marcus Blackwood stood before the massive tactical display, watching as thousands of ships moved into formation. The combined fleet stretched across space like a constellation of vengeance, each vessel a star burning with humanity's fury. His weathered face reflected the blue glow of tactical readouts as Captain Juniper Reeves approached. "The assault fleets are in position," Reeves reported, her tactical genius evident in the precise formations displayed before them. "Strike groups Alpha through Delta await your command. Operation Nemesis is ready to begin." Blackwood nodded, his gray eyes fixed on the coordinates extracted from the alien facility on Europa. "They thought they could study us, dissect us, treat us like specimens. Today they learn the cost of that mistake." The fleet's jump drives engaged simultaneously, tearing holes in space-time. Through these artificial wounds in reality, humanity's armada emerged into unknown space, facing a civilization that had gravely underestimated their prey. The alien homeworld hung before them, a pearl of technology and advancement. Orbital rings and space stations circled the planet like jewelry, testament to a civilization thousands of years ahead of humanity. But technological superiority meant little in the face of absolute surprise and overwhelming numbers. "Multiple contacts," announced Lieutenant Frost from her sensor station. "Their orbital defenses are activating, but their response is uncoordinated. They didn't expect us to find them, let alone reach them." Captain Reeves stepped forward, her tactical display highlighting key targets. "Their orbital infrastructure is vulnerable. Their ships are faster, more advanced, but they're scattered. They never considered they'd need to defend their home." "Begin the attack," Blackwood commanded. "Show them humanity's response to their scientific curiosity." The battle that followed would be studied for generations. Captain Reeves' strategy proved devastating. While alien vessels possessed superior technology, they had never faced an enemy that combined human tenacity with overwhelming numbers. Strike Group Alpha targeted their orbital defense platforms, while Beta and Gamma engaged their scrambling fleet. Delta Group, led by Blackwood himself, began systematic bombardment of military installations on the surface. From his command chair, Blackwood watched the alien civilization's confidence shatter. Their transmissions, quickly decoded, shifted from confusion to panic to desperate pleas for negotiation. But humanity had not come to negotiate. "Sir," Reeves called out, her voice tight with controlled emotion, "we're detecting massive civilian population centers in the target zones." Blackwood's expression remained stone cold. "They showed no concern for civilian status when they took our people. Maintain bombardment." Hours turned to days as Operation Nemesis continued its inexorable advance. The alien fleet, despite its technological superiority, found itself overwhelmed by human numbers and determination. Captain Reeves' tactical innovations proved especially effective. She had studied the alien technology from Europa and found weaknesses no one else had spotted. On the third day, their sensors detected something unexpected. Deep beneath the alien world's surface, energy readings began to spike. "They're activating something," Lieutenant Frost reported. "Something massive." The answer came in the form of a planetary defense system unlike anything humanity had encountered. The alien world's surface split open, revealing massive weapon complexes that began targeting the human fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Reeves shouted, but Blackwood countermanded her. "No, press the attack. Show them we will not be deterred." What followed was a testament to human determination. Ships fell by the dozens, then hundreds, but for each human vessel destroyed, a piece of alien infrastructure burned. The planet's surface became a canvas of destruction, painted with the fire of orbital bombardment and planetary defense systems. In the midst of the chaos, Blackwood received a transmission from Earth. The Security Council had reviewed data recovered from newly captured alien facilities. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The experiments on the 11 women were just the beginning. The aliens had planned systematic abduction and experimentation on human populations, seeing Earth as a vast laboratory of test subjects. "Send this to all ships," Blackwood commanded, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's judgment. "Show them the price of their ambitions." The battle reached its crescendo as human forces breached the final orbital defenses. The alien civilization's arrogance had been their undoing. They had never built defenses proportional to their offensive capabilities, never believing a lesser species could reach their homeworld. As Operation Nemesis entered its final phase, Captain Reeves approached Blackwood one last time. "We've achieved our objectives," she reported. "Their military capability is broken. Their leadership is in chaos. We've proven our point." Blackwood turned to her, his expression grim. "No, Captain. We've only begun to make our point. They needed test subjects. Let them be subjects of this lesson. Humanity is not to be trifled with." The operation continued, methodically reducing a civilization of billions to ashes, writing humanity's warning to the galaxy in fire and destruction. The message was clear. The price of treating humans as specimens would be paid in full, with interest calculated in extinction. Dr. Lyra Hassan never wanted to be a witness to genocide. As a xenoanthropologist, she had dreamed of studying alien civilizations, understanding their cultures, building bridges between species. Instead, she found herself documenting their extinction. The observation deck of the UES Prometheus offered a perfect view of the devastation below. Cities that had stood for millennia crumbled under relentless bombardment. The alien world's atmosphere, once a shimmering purple-blue, now burned orange with perpetual fire. "The translation matrix is complete," she announced to the assembled military command, her voice hollow. "I've decoded their historical archives. They called themselves the Nexari. Their civilization was over 15,000 years old." General Ricardo Vega, commander of the ground forces, barely looked up from his tactical display. "Was being the operative word, Doctor. What else did you find?" Lyra's hands trembled as she brought up the holographic displays. "Their society was built on the pursuit of knowledge. The experiments on our people, they didn't see it as cruel. In their culture, the advancement of science justified any means. That justification died with our 11, Vega replied coldly. But Lyra noticed something flicker across his face. Doubt, perhaps, or recognition of a darker truth. The Prometheus shuddered as another wave of planetary defense fire scattered across its shields. Below, Project Omega continued its systematic work. Specially designed warheads penetrated deep into the planet's crust, targeting the geological stability of the entire world. "They're sending another transmission," Lieutenant Park reported from communications. "They're begging for mercy, offering complete surrender, technological exchange, reparations." "No," came the response from Fleet Command. They had their chance for diplomacy. Execute the final phase. Lyra watched in horror as the last phase of Project Omega began. The warheads detonated in sequence, destabilizing the planet's tectonic structure. The alien world began to tear itself apart from within. In the chaos, she received a heavily encrypted transmission from a Nexeri research facility. The message contained detailed cultural archives, scientific knowledge, art, music, everything that made their civilization unique. A final attempt to preserve something of their existence. They're trying to save their legacy, she whispered, but no one was listening. The military command was focused on tactical displays, ensuring no Nexeri ships escaped the carnage. As the planet's destruction accelerated, Lyra retreated to her quarters. She found herself studying the Nexeri language, their philosophy, their art. They were brilliant, innovative, and utterly certain of their own superiority. That certainty had led them to commit atrocities in the name of progress. Now, humanity's certainty of its own righteousness was leading to their extinction. Days passed as the operation continued. Lyra documented everything. The methodical destruction of a civilization, the screams of billions silenced in the name of justice. She recorded the final transmissions of Nexeri scientists, artists, children. Some begged for mercy, others simply broadcast their stories into space, hoping someone would remember they existed. General Vega found her in her lab late one night, surrounded by holographic displays of Nexeri culture. "Having doubts, Doctor? Aren't you?" she challenged, showing him a recording of a Nexeri musical performance. "Look at what we're destroying. Yes, they committed horrible crimes against us. Yes, they needed to be stopped. But this," she gestured to the burning world below, "this is beyond justice. This is vengeance." Vega was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps that's what justice looks like when the crime is against humanity itself. They didn't just hurt 11 women. They planned to treat our entire species as lab rats. And what are we becoming in response? Lyra asked softly. When does vengeance become its own kind of monstrosity? The question hung in the air as another series of explosions rocked the planet below. The Nexeri homeworld was dying, its civilization reduced to ashes and memories. Humanity had proven itself capable of extinction-level retribution. In her final report to Earth's Security Council, Lyra included everything. The full scope of Nexeri civilization, their achievements, their crimes, and their end. "Let this serve as a record," she wrote, "not just of their extinction, but of the price we paid to execute it. In destroying monsters, we must be careful not to become them." The Nexeri homeworld's death throes lasted another week. When it was over, humanity had written its name in the stars not as explorers or diplomats, but as avengers. The galaxy would remember this demonstration of human power and human wrath. But in her quarters, Lyra Hassan preserved the encrypted transmission of Nexeri culture. Someone needed to remember what was lost, to understand the full cost of vengeance. The 11 women had been avenged, but the price, measured in billions of lives and humanity's own innocence, would echo through the ages. Lieutenant Colonel Darius Shah stood in the ruins of what had once been a Nexeri cultural center, the hollow eyes of shattered statues staring back at him. His combat armor was coated in the iridescent dust that seemed to cover everything now. The pulverized remains of an alien civilization. "Sector 17 secured," he reported mechanically into his comm unit. "No survivors found." The words felt like ash in his mouth. The ground teams had been deployed to confirm the extinction was complete, to ensure no pockets of Nexeri survived in underground bunkers or shielded facilities. But what they found instead were the echoes of life. Abandoned nurseries, museums filled with millennia of art, libraries containing the knowledge of ages. Colonel, his second-in-command, Major Olivia Torres, called out, "You need to see this." In a sealed chamber beneath the rubble, they discovered a hidden archive. Holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, showing scenes from Nexeri daily life before the devastation. Families, children, artists, scientists, all going about their lives, unaware of their impending doom. "They weren't all monsters," Torres whispered, watching a recording of Nexeri children playing in anti-gravity fields. "They were people. Misguided, arrogant people. But But we had our orders, Shaw finished grimly. The weight of those orders had been growing heavier with each empty city they cleared. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent transmission from orbit. "Colonel, we're detecting an energy signature 2 kilometers north of your position," the operator reported. Sir, it matches the pattern from the Europa facility." Shaw's blood ran cold. Another laboratory. Another site of atrocities. His team moved with practiced efficiency through the ruins, following the energy signature to its source. What they found made even hardened soldiers pause. It was a research center, but not like the horror they'd discovered on Europa. This facility was dedicated to understanding humanity's consciousness, our capacity for emotion, our ability to form bonds. The experiments weren't designed to dissect, but to comprehend. They were trying to understand us. Dr. Reena Patel, their science officer, said as she reviewed the facility's databanks. After Europa, after they realized what they'd done, they were trying to understand why we reacted as we did. They wanted to learn empathy. Shaw stared at the final entries in the research logs, dated just before the extinction began. The Nexari scientists had realized their mistake, had begun to grasp the magnitude of their crime against humanity. But their epiphany came too late. As his team continued their sweep, Shaw found himself in what appeared to be a memorial chamber. The walls were covered with images of the 11 women taken from Europa, along with thousands of pages of Nexari text. "It's an apology," Dr. Petal translated, her voice shaking. "They dedicated this place to understanding their mistake. The text speaks of regret, of horror at their own actions, of a desperate desire to make amends. But humanity's vengeance had not waited for apologies. The extinction of the Nexari was absolute, their attempts at redemption lost in the fire of retribution. That night, in his temporary quarters, Shaw wrote his report to command. His fingers hovered over the datapad as he struggled with what to include. The official mandate was clear: document tactical details, confirm extinction protocols, maintain humanity's justified response narrative. Instead, he found himself writing about the memorial chamber, about the Nexari's belated understanding of their crimes, about the possibility of redemption lost to the flames of vengeance. He wrote about the cost of justice when it becomes indistinguishable from revenge. "The extinction is confirmed," he wrote in his official conclusion. "The Nexari civilization has been eliminated, but in their final days, they learned what we forgot in our fury: the value of understanding, the price of empathy, the weight of regret." As Shaw filed his report, the last fires of the Nexari extinction burned out across their ruined world. Humanity had won its victory, had avenged its daughters, but the cost was measured not just in alien lives, but in the weight of conscience that would burden survivors like Shaw for generations to come. The stars watched in silence as humanity struggled with its new identity, no longer just explorers or victims, but executioners of entire civilizations. The power to enact such vengeance came with a price, one that would echo through the human psyche long after the dust of the Nexari world had settled. And in the memorial chamber, the faces of 11 women looked out from alien walls, their stories now entwined forever with the extinction of those who had wronged them, a testament to the complex intersection of justice, vengeance, and the capacity for both atrocity and redemption that lived in all sentient beings. 1 year after the extinction of the Nexari, humanity faced its reflection in the cosmic mirror. The observation deck of the newly constructed Unity station offered a clear view of Earth, a blue jewel suspended in space, while holographic displays showed the graveyard that was once the Nexari homeworld. Director Amanda Ramirez of the Interstellar Relations Committee stood before the assembled representatives of Earth's nations, her silver hair catching the starlight. The chamber was silent as she presented findings that would reshape humanity's future. "We've discovered survivor colonies," she announced, her voice steady but heavy with implications. 3 Nexari outposts, hidden in the void between stars. Approximately 10,000 survivors, mostly civilians, scientists, and children. The chamber erupted in fierce debate. Some called for immediate extinction of the remaining Nexeri, citing the original mandate. Others argued for imprisonment or exile. But Ramirez held up her hand, commanding silence. Before we decide their fate, you need to see this. She activated a holographic projection recovered from the largest survivor colony. It showed a vast archive, meticulously maintained, documenting both the worst of Nexeri actions and humanity's response. They're teaching their children about both atrocities, she explained. Their crimes against our 11 and our retribution against their billions. They're ensuring both sides of this tragedy are remembered. Professor James Chen, one of the leading synopsychologists studying the aftermath, stepped forward. The survivor colonies have undergone a profound cultural transformation. Their entire society has restructured itself around understanding and preventing the kind of thinking that led to the Europa incident. The debate that followed would last months, testing humanity's capacity for mercy against its memory of vengeance. In the end, a compromise was reached. The Nexeri survivors would be allowed to live, but under strict observation, their technology and growth carefully monitored. But the discovery of the survivor colonies was just the beginning. As humanity expanded into the galaxy, they found other advanced civilizations watching, judging, learning from the Nexeri extinction. Earth's reputation preceded its people, a young species capable of both suffering terrible wounds and inflicting devastating vengeance. Some alien cultures sought diplomatic relations immediately, eager to avoid humanity's wrath. Others retreated, building defenses and watching from afar. The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson. Humanity would not be experimented upon, would not be treated as lesser beings, would not tolerate the suffering of its people. Yet within human society, the debate continued. Schools taught the 11 women incident and the Nexeri extinction as watershed moments in human history, but perspectives varied. Some saw it as humanity's darkest hour, others as its most decisive show of strength. Director Ramirez found herself at the center of these discussions as humanity established its first diplomatic relations with other species. We must remember both sides of our nature, she often said. Our capacity for vengeance, yes, but also our potential for mercy. The survivor colonies became living laboratories of redemption. Under careful observation, the Nexeri rebuilt not just their society, but their entire worldview. Their children grew up understanding both the horror of their ancestors' actions and the price of humanity's retribution. 20 years after the extinction, humanity faced another test. A deep space expedition discovered a pre-FTL civilization conducting experiments eerily similar to those performed on Europa. The debate over intervention was fierce, but in the end, humanity chose a different path. Instead of extinction, they revealed themselves, sharing the story of the 11 and the Nexeri. They showed both the horror of unchecked scientific ambition and the devastating price of absolute vengeance. The young civilization abandoned their experiments, choosing instead to seek diplomatic contact. As humanity's influence spread across the stars, the legacy of those 11 women evolved. They were remembered not just as victims whose deaths sparked an extinction, but as catalysts for a profound change in how sentient species viewed each other. The memorial on Unity Station became a symbol of this complex legacy. It displayed the names and achievements of the 11 women, alongside images of the Nexeri extinction and the surviving colony's transformation. It stood as a reminder of humanity's power and its responsibility, its capacity for both devastation and mercy. In the end, humanity's response to the 11 women incident wrote their character across the stars in letters of fire and blood. But it was their response to the survivor colonies that began writing the new chapter, one of wisdom earned through terrible price, of strength tempered by understanding, of vengeance balanced by the possibility of redemption. The galaxy would never forget the price of underestimating humanity, but perhaps in time, it would also remember how humanity learned to balance justice with mercy, power with wisdom, and vengeance with the possibility of redemption.